Welcome, everybody, to the Aperitif concerts. This is Tesoro's, I cannot believe we're saying this, fourth year, fourth season. For those of you who don't know but need to, Tesoro is an international women's poets, or too soon after the new year, folks, and not enough caffeine. Tesoro is an international women's poetry circle. We have members in Colombia, Canada, Portugal, Australia, the United Kingdom, and South Africa, as well as all over the United States. And this is one of four online shows that we have. You'll be seeing us premiere for this season all over the place. So keep an eye out. You can go to our website, which is www.firesingers.com, to find out what Tesoro and its members are up to, who we are, what we do. I have introduced every single artist who has worked this series the same way. I don't see any reason to break precedent now. We are beyond blessed to have on the mic tonight somebody that I have known for a few years now. Um, I'm not going to give you her bio because she's going to do that for us. I will just say, welcome, Sonia Gutierrez.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Stacy. It's wonderful to be here. Like we met in San Marcos at Palomar College through the Palomar Poets Club, and we even had an opportunity to go to what is it called? Old Cal Cafe. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So tell us, give us the thumbnail version of
I'm
who
Sonia
you are and
Gutierrez.
what you do.
Yeah, Sonia Gutierrez was a very curious child who was brought up with, a religious framework. And I was that kid where mom would say, tell this person I said this. And then I'd be like, my mom said to say this. So it was just fascinating, right? As I think about, that child, that was told that everything had to be the truth, right? And I think that became my lens as a poet, as a writer. I see my writing is through a very social justice driven lens. Is that my heritage? Is that religion? Is that my upbringing? That is my magnetic pull. Then, I went on to college and I majored in English. I was drawn to also psychology. I was drawn to psychology, but I majored in literature and writing studies with an emphasis in writing. However, Stacy, believe it or not in creative writing. So really, it was about I wrote for the Pride, maybe like one, perhaps like 2 semesters. I wrote for the Pride, and so then the actual creative writing probably came to me without even realizing that I was a writer and a poet. For me, writing came out of necessity, and that means that I was in graduate school, and I wanted to give my parents a Mother's Day gift, a Father's Day gift, and I didn't have money as a starving student, and that's when poetry came to me. Like a voice told me, Sonia, you don't have money, but you have words. And I remember I was working and I just started writing. And then I thought, Stacy, well, this isn't going to have a deep meaning to my parents because my parents are illiterate. That's the word that we use in Western culture. However, in my background, oral tradition. So my parents come from oral tradition, and I knew that a poem, or I didn't even call it a poem, but anything in writing, it didn't have the power or significance that I knew about writing. So I had to create some type of cultural artifact, or at least that's what my brain was telling me. My mind was saying, well, what if you frame it? What if you go to, back in the day, it used to be called Save a Lot or Pick and Save. And then I bought these very cool frames. They were probably like $30, but I got them like for $3 each. And then I would printed out in amazing, paper and font, and I would match it up with the frame, so it was visually appealing to my parents. And so that's how it happened with my best friend. I think he might have been the first one, and then Mother's Day and Father's Day. And the only poem that still exists in that cultural artifact form is actually my friend Rich's. And right um, before this, I was getting ready, and I noticed on Facebook that Frank Enriquez had passed away this morning. So in Mexico, it's very different, Stacy. Somebody passes, and by Saturday, they're already going to have the funeral service. So I want to dedicate this talk that we have and this reading to my friend Rich's father, Frank Enriquez. He went to Palomar. He was part of track and field there at Palomar College in San Marcos, California. And that's it. That's how I started writing. And the dream of publishing came to me as, can you hear my cat? My cat's trying to get my attention. I was telling you that the idea of becoming an author, I thought that maybe what I should do is like submit to like, literary competitions. And my goodness, was I brokenhearted when I wasn't selected. It was silly, silly of me to think, that um, I'm not silly that I would get published, but just the heartbreak that I remember that heartbreak. I actually broke up with poetry for 2 years because I was so heartbroken because I wasn't selected, and just so blind that years later when I found the letter of rejection, it actually said on the side, it said, Sonia, keep writing. Well, a little note like keep writing, like something about like your writing's good. And then I was thankful. I was thankful for finding that note. Since then, I published a novel, Dreaming with Mariposas, and that happened because literally one night um, I realized that I had outgrown the classroom, and that I was a professor and that I had students, but that and something told me that I needed to connect and communicate beyond the classroom. And that day, there was a doorway with a missing door, and I saw my grandmother's photograph, indigenous grandmother that I never met. But that day, it's as if her spirit, um, she was able to breathe into me her story. And so I started writing vignettes, and was I writing a novel, and just started compiling. I was writing it a la Sandra Cisneros, Tomás Rivera, and just kept doing it. So it took me about 13 years to write and publish, and it was beautiful, right? It was all that labor of love. And then one day, I won Tomás Rivera Book Award, a Book to Movie Award, Gold for Cover, among other recognitions for that novel. Um, and then my latest collection is Paper Birds. That one was published in 2024, and really my first collection, if we think about it, is my master thesis. So it was a bilingual
Mhm.
poetry collection, and my committee asked me if I could also have theoretical driven chapters, and that was technically my first book. Then Spider Woman La Mujer Araña, then Dreaming with Mariposas. Then I was invited to a textbook, and then Paper Birds. And right now I'm working on a couple manuscripts that I'm excited about. Actually, one of them is The Adventures of a Burrito Flying Saucer. And the other one that I just didn't know was going to happen like right away. Sorry about that. My kid just walked in. And then the other one that is just moving very quickly as of maybe a week ago is the second edition of Spider Woman. So that
Okay.
is Sonia Gutierrez. She's a professor. She's been invited to teach in women's studies, and I've been invited to teach with ethnic studies and creative writing through Chicano studies over at SDSU, and also what else? Composition, critical thinking and writing, creative writing. And that's me. I have two children. One just turned 18 and one is going to turn 15 this year. Both amazing human beings. They are both creative, and they are both an inspiration to me. And that's me.
Okay. That covers just about every question I had for you, which is great. The one question that I ask every artist that does this series, and you can interpret it however it is you want to interpret it, is why poetry and why now?
Why poetry and why now? That is such an important question that I barely could answer as of last week. There's a poem by Pablo Neruda, and it's something along like these lines. Poetry came to find me, and so the poem goes on how poetry came to find him, like in the streets, on people's faces, and the story of how poetry came to find me out of necessity, out of poverty, not being able to give my parents what they really deserved, I believed. um, and in 2010 there was one of many anti-Hispanic waves in the United States. And Francisco X. Alarcón out of UC Davis wrote a poem to the Chicanitos who had tied themselves to the Capitol in Arizona. And that one poem unfurled a movement, poets responding to SB 1070. What I know is that my voice was amplified because of Francisco Alarcón, Odilia Galvan Rodriguez. And so I would submit, like I was already writing, and then they would select like 5 poems out of the month. And then by the end of the year, they would always ask themselves, like, so what are we going to do with this? What are we going to do? And so they had a partnership with La Bloga, and then they would pick the 10 best of the year. And I happened to be 10 best maybe I want to say 3 or 4 times. Later, they invited me if I could. They knew how busy I was, and they asked me if I could be a moderator for a poetry responding to 1070, and I was. And I remember that I had a couple readings with Francisco Alarcón in the United States in Boyle Heights. I had one with Francisco Alarcón in Tijuana at Galeria Mariposa. And I remember talking to him, and he told me, like, Sonia, your poems are good. Like I like your poems, um, but I don't like the way you read. I didn't take it personal. It was something that he was seeing, and what I recognize, Stacy, is I didn't choose to be a poet. I didn't grow up in Mexico where children are, taught to memorize and, and recite, a poem. Maybe you had an amazing opportunity to do that. I did not have that in the United States. So my relationship with poets were poets that I met through photos, right? So that means that I know what Emily Dickinson looks like. I know what Maya Angelou looks like. I know like Misusu Koneko looks like because I saw these people through photographs and on the page. So there was no voice that that I could compare to that. I just didn't. I didn't know what I was supposed to sound like. And it was not the first person that told me that they didn't like my voice. It was also we won't say any names, but somebody also told me in Tijuana, like you're not a very good reader, and again, it's like, but what I cannot live up to the standard of reciting poetry in Mexico because I was not raised in Mexico. So you just got my very boring like reading off the page. So well, that was embarrassing, like to be told that I needed to and Francisco Alarcon taught me, and I remember looking at him. We were both looking at each other, and he said, "I said I write poems, Francisco." Um, I said, "Like what? What is the purpose?" And he looked at me and he said, "You mean you don't know the purpose?" And I said, I don't. I mean, I know that I write poetry. It just came to me naturally. It just comes to me. And it's I'm not embarrassed to say this, but what Renee Nicole taught me, Renee Nicole Good taught me, is that we are healers and poets are healers, and that I am a person that is a therapist. I am. We have a word for that in Mexico, and it's curandero. It's somebody who heals, with herbs. But I understand now that, that I have this voice, I have this ability to write these poems because there are people, a lot of people, that are in pain. We can't, we're in shock. We cannot rationalize what's happening around us. And then you have people like us that can see, at a very deep level, and that we have also the ability to write what we see. And we also are able to express, and the effect that our poems have on people is maybe they need to laugh, maybe they need to cry, maybe they need to recognize how angry they are about whatever we're going through. And I think not to say that I didn't know, before last week, but it was clear to me that, that I just couldn't. I remember, re, Don Lemon just did a very quick, just a recap of what had just happened. And he just kind of said, and she was shot in the face. And that, like from the time that I heard him, I don't know how many hours went by. By 4:30, I couldn't. I couldn't focus, and I needed to tell just the humanistic perspective of what had happened, because people were stuck in the legalities where the wheels turned, and what is it that a citizen can do, and just the legalities of man-made legalities. And for me, it was about this couple, this child, this people, that a woman, that had just been murdered in broad daylight. And I think what the issue for me was like being shot in the face. It was something that I couldn't believe. I couldn't believe, and I just started writing it. It just came to me. Just I was just kept on reading about this case. I'm not a person, Stacy. I'm not a poet that rushes my writing. I'm not a poet that writes a la brava. A la brava means like on the spot, like let's get a poem out. No, 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 no. Like my poetry takes a week, a month, maybe I have one that is maybe one that's never, feels complete, or a line that is saved somewhere, and then one day I'm going to be ready to write that poem. But it's just amazing, like now that we're older, it's like sometimes like I wonder, like what happens when poets get dementia, or we get some type of illness that we no longer can do what came to us so natural.
I've
And
always told people that, poets never die, we just run out of ink.
okay. And for me, it was like that fear, like, like, am I losing my ability to write poetry? Is that what's going to happen as I get older? And at 50, I also had that realization. No, it's your gift, and it's with you. Maybe sometimes we go through traumatic experiences that block us, and we don't realize like that we are not in a good place, and maybe that's part of the block. But no, 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 that's what that experience also taught me.
Uh, well, what I'm going to do
Mhm,
is go ahead and hand you the mic,
mhm,
um, because you're right. We are healers. And I think now more than ever, this place, this planet needs healing. So the mic is all yours.
mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Right ahead.
Thank you. You know, Stacy. Sometimes, as as people, as poets, there are people that come into our lives and they soften us a bit. So in my case, my baby, Spider Woman La Mujer Araña, is a very confrontational voice. This woman, this character doesn't hide. And then you meet people like Francisco Alarcón, and you're just in awe. I was in awe how this man was a poet, and that his audience was also children, that he was a children's book author. So that was something that I believe that I learned from Francisco Alarcón. Like how can Sonia write without, with thinking about also about children. Like that was like a big thing for me. Like I want to be able to write poetry that is accessible, including children. However, because of the times that we're living, I would like to begin with a poem that was almost not going to be part of the collection, that I was going to um, that I hadn't read, um, and now this book was published in 2013, and now we're in 2026, and what seemed radical at the time, or maybe Sonia perceived as radical, there's nothing radical about what I wrote. And I would like to begin with this poem that's called "You Are 1070." and it's playing on the SB 1070, but I made it a capital U and an R and 1070. And this is like the Sonia, probably before the influence of Francisco Alarcón. You are 1070. You tell me you are not a racist. You are an Arizonian in your own right, in your own white, flawless rights, in your white, lawless plights against the native skin you single out, marring your high class etiquette. Your forefathers' land, your America, a land of the free. Where vigilantes and invisible white hoods terrorize me in Georgia, Texas, and California. Look at me. No, really, look at me. Directly into my eyes, but without the sunglasses, without the gun, without the handcuffs, without the whip, without the wooden or metal baton, without the water hose, without the DDT, without the napalm. And when you look at me, notice that you see me through the borrowed memories of your ancestors, haunting your present twisted state of mind, suffering from that pathology called race. That in your eyes makes me look perfectly inhuman. You are the germinated grandchild of slavery, of Trail of Tears, of the Chinese Exclusion Act, of Operation Wetback, of Vietnam, of Japanese internment camps, Proposition 187, Operation Gatekeeper, weapons of mass destruction, the Patriot Act, of SB 1070. You want to believe in your own fantasy, your own twisted logical fallacy. You are America, the beautiful, y sin acento. You always write words that make you look as the victimized, always the victim. In a muddled pond of racist rhetoric, white revolution is the only solution. But who is really stealing your job, your money? Who is really shattering your American dreamland? You are 1070, a legacy of hate. You relish and smirk when you see your labor, when the handcuffs click and the jailhouse locks. When you single out and say, hey, you over there, and label and then tag colored people. Selective seeing and hearing has made of you a simpleton who wears blinds and carries a magnifying glass like Georges Cuvier. Round them, cowboy. Childhood play's not over for you. Your cowboy and Indian patterns never left you. You are the good guy, the self-righteous ambassador and protector of Arizona, of your country, my world. From sea to shining sea, I am the son, the daughter, the father, the mother, the grandmother, the sister, the teacher, the carpenter, the gardener, the architect, your future potential son-in-law or daughter. I am as free as the air that you breathe. And you, again, have reduced me to a thing incapable of feeling emotion, like a shipped and caged African slave, unconnected to this country that serves you on a silver platter. So you can see your shiny white teeth reflected on silverware before you take a bite of your sweat-picked tomatoes and lettuce, USDA grade A meat from those illegal aliens, mis paisanos, working in Colorado, and then you think life is good. Then you toast and sip your California wine. Oh, yes, of course, Arizona. I'm beginning to see your master plan brewing. No illegal immigrants, other than white complected ones, preferably of European descent. No ethnic studies. No accents. Poof, como los judíos. So, Stacey, as I was reading it, I was kind of shocked that, that one part where I'm reading, it says without the handcuffs, without the whip, without the wooden or metal baton, and now without the mask. So this is going to be a second edition. As I'm reading it, I'm like, yeah, and now 10 years later, was Sonia the poet exaggerating? To some, yes. But now I get to add without the mask, without the black mask. So that's one of the poems from Spider-Woman La Mujer Araña. Let me see if I can read you another one from this book. This one I would like to read. This one was inspired by Martin Luther King Jr. And it's the poem that closes the collection. It's a very, very simple poem. Entrenched. Entrenched, earth propels the palms of my feet, and I walk arm in arm with nature all around me. Entrenched, I spread my arms mercifully and fly past the walls of prejudice, longing to live the dream. Entrenched, I spin spiral webs, catching rainbows, rainbows, rainbows in full glee. Entrenched, I wake, labor, and rise until this small universe of mine whispers, no. So this one is a poem that came to me as a woman, who lives in the United States, that recognizes that this country was not designed for somebody like me. And there have been, moments in my life where I wasn't selected, and it was, that dream, that I was thinking about Martin Luther King Jr. And then I thought, this is how I feel, and we just continue to work and we labor, and in the end is that's what matters to me. There's a few other poems that I love from Spider Woman now that I'm working on the second edition, but I will put it aside. Let's see. I know that I took out the this one, the Paper Birds one. However, I do want to use these instruments, pre-Columbian instruments. And there's a poetry collection in mind that I'm working on. It's called Sana Sana Colita de Rana. And this is going to be, it's a word that Mexican moms say when their child is hurt. And so this one is a poem. No, a poem. Every year for Dia de los Muertos, when my mom passed away, I tried that first year to write a poem for her, but I couldn't. I wasn't ready. I think 2 years went by, and we would always have to be ready for my mom for Dia de los Muertos at San Luis Rey in Oceanside. And I think I wrote like 3 or 4 consecutive years. I would write a poem for my mom. This is probably one of my favorite poems because everything that I'm gonna share was true, but written in a poetic way. And then maybe about 2 years ago, uh, yeah, maybe about 2 years ago or 2 years and a half. It's like it felt like yeah, I was reading poems, but I also come with a voice that unfortunately wasn't developed as far as like singing, as far as instruments. And I find that now that I'm 50, like it's coming very natural to me. Like everything is, it's almost like everything kind of was off in my brain, and now is everything's coming into place. So I want to read this one, and then something told me that I needed to include sound to my work. This comes from the Colombian heritage. This one comes from Somos Chicanas, is an anthology that was recently published through let's see, Brenda Vaca, right, of Roses Publishing Press, and also edited by Wieshweg. Notes on the Holy Ghost and her atheist daughter. Ama, promise me when you die, you will return and talk to me. I request months before a tall sequoia tree with long, emaciated branches elongates her last breath. 1. When I'm finally ready, I call out, Mama, and the laptop turns on. I talk with you, floating electrical current who flickers lights. We talk for about 10 minutes. I say my goodbyes. Gracias, mamá, por tomarte el tiempo para hablar conmigo. Mother always on point. The laptop turns off. 2. You are looming, emitting soft, gentle tinkers above the glass bulb holders. Who knew your presence could make such sweet sounds even in spirit? How do you do that? Are you holding an invisible fork? 3. You are already in the room when Father returns to celebrate you. He opens the guest room, and you turn off the lights on a whim. I tease Dad. ¿Es mi mamá? ¿Qué hiciste para que te apagara la luz? 4. Queen of the Simplasuchi, on your day, family comes from distant places to be with you, our Holy Ghost. The tamales and champurrado are ready. Come and eat. Oh, please don't hide behind the white columns. We are all here waiting with our bony faces. 5. Around here, in front of your bedroom window, your green thumb is still present in the earth. Outside, a thorny rose bush blooms the heaviest of reds. Mother, you look so majestic dressed in deep green foliage. In dreams, wearing a crown of flowers and an obsidian face, you tell me, your atheist daughter, Dios te ilumine, mija. And so I was very happy that this poem was selected for Somos Chicanas. And it seemed like a couple of my pieces were selected from different manuscripts. So that was exciting for me. This one I will not read all.
Just
I
to let
won't
you
read.
know, we've got about 7 minutes left.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so let me be selective. So I will only read a very short piece, and then I'll end with Paper Birds, my latest collection. Dreaming with Aurora, and that's the vignette that I was telling you about for the novel. Dreaming with Aurora. Ay, qué bonito es volar a las 2 de la mañana, a las 2 de la mañana. Ay, qué bonito es volar. Ay, mamá, la bruja. It was November in the time of memories and dreams. She wore her hair long, black hair down over her shoulders, and her favorite white gown touched her calves. Her bare feet were dry like the desert dust, craving for a drop of water. Under the chirimoya tree, she sat on a concrete bench while she took in her surroundings that looked like her home, and then continued on her journey. She saw the rabbit on the moon peer through the tall almond tree heavy with flowers. Its leaves glistened and danced feverishly as she passed by. So I'm going to go ahead and skip um, till the end, and then I'm going to conclude it. It was November in the time of Ay de mi llorona, 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 llévame al río. Tápame con tu rebozo, llorona, porque me muero de frío. So this is from the novel Dreaming with Mariposas, and this is something that I saw Sandra Cisneros do when she came to the Escondido Art Center. But she shared with the audience that her mom was an opera singer, but she couldn't sing. And then I thought, oh, okay. Like one day when I write, if I include epigraphs, I know that I can sing them. So, and I knew because I know that I have this voice inside that unfortunately that I'm not a singer. Okay, okay. Let me see another grandchild. Let's see. This one is a poem that came to me. I think this would be the last one, no? The last one? Yeah. Okay, so this is from Paper Birds, Feather by Feather, Pájaros de Papel, Pluma por Pluma. It's a continuation of my social justice driven voice. And it's very fascinating. I write about Black men. Why? I think if we look closely at my heritage, I think it's going to be very clear that Mexico is tercera raíz, so it has a third root in Mexico, and I think there's sometimes you can't deny what we see. So that's probably why, and because also the first book that I selected to read in college was the narrative of a slave by Frederick Douglass. I'm not sure if I'm getting the correct title, but that was my call. It was, again, I think once you read a text or meet someone in spirit, to me, then they influence what you write. So somehow the dates overlapped with Trayvon Martin. My birthday was on the February 27th, and I just couldn't see myself like, how do you celebrate your own birthday when somebody's life has been taken? And it took me a couple, I think the same thing happened, like what happened with my mom. The same thing happened with Trayvon's poem, but I was finally able to write it when I was ready. An American Landscape. On a chilly February night, under a star-spangled sky, Trayvon, you stay warm, fastened like a monk in a Rembrandt painting. As you talk to your girlfriend, your words sugared with purple, green, yellow, and the red of your youth, took a cloak past, when in the distance, a man's 400-year-old gaze, clouded with a history hanging with strange fruit, set its eyes on you. As you walked through invisible marked streets, those pair of cutout holes carrying a holstered pistol preyed on someone like you, and you ran and wrestled for freedom in this American landscape, looking for a place to take root and extend your long, lean branches, reaching for a limitless sky, but one bullet nod your heart, and turn your fingernails blue. Those cutout holes could never hear you. Stop following me, nor could they ever see the prime green 17 of your youth. Against a historical American backdrop where saplings are lost, a little man saw an American TV monster mightier than himself. And the only thing that little man could do was reach for the trigger. Too late to learn. Your pockets were stuffed with dreams of you, Trayvon, wearing a pilot hat, flying through mirthful blue skies. Not pearls, not diamonds, nor gold rings. And yeah, so I realized that I didn't honor Renee, but it's okay, right? But because for me, Renee, Renee is a continuation of issues that we continue to live in the United States. I,
Definitely.
yeah, I want to thank you, Stacy. Thank you so much for this invitation to Tesoro and allowing me to join you this evening.
Well, I said it has been an absolute pleasure. Um, I usually say in releases, you'll be hearing the wit and wisdom of
Mhm.
someone, and I think you fulfilled that beautifully. So
Mhm.
thank you so much.
Mhm.
For those of you who are interested in knowing more about Sonia, purchasing her work, can you tell folks where to find you?
Yes, of course. So you can look for me. Let's see, through my presses. So, for instance, as we know, like if you buy directly from the publisher, it's better for the publisher and also the author. So, my novel "Dreaming with Mariposas" is through Flower Song Press in Texas, and of course, they have their website, and you can find it here in North County. You can actually find it at your Barnes and Noble store, and you can buy it like through whatever online store you want, wherever you want your money to go. And then also Paper Prints Feather by Feather, again through El Martillo Press or anywhere where you want to buy it online. And yeah, just as I'm approaching with these upcoming publications, second edition of Spider Woman, I would like to honor myself and my path. And I would like to publish, again, self publish for that book, Spider Woman Mujer Araña, that did have a publisher. But I didn't see the quality that I was looking for, so we parted ways. And I want to publish this book with Barnes and Noble, since they are in competition with Amazon. We can self publish with Barnes and Noble, and I would like to take that opportunity, maybe even a hardback book. That would be wonderful. And just look out for in the future The Adventures of Burrito Flying Saucer, which will be my first illustrated book. And then another collection that I'm working on is Sana Sana Colita de Rana, and other projects, that if I can continue writing until I'm 80, I will do so.
I think that's the perfect place to leave it. Thank you
Thank you.
so
Thank you,
much.
Stacy.
For those of you who are out there who will see this, be careful with yourselves.
Mhm.
And we will see you all somewhere around the way. Have a
Mhm.
good night.
Thank you.